What is going on, guys? You guys know who it is. It's your main man, MFX Prodigy, on the mic, bringing you the first installment in Step Your Game Up, Blacklight Retribution Edition. First and foremost, we're going to be covering the video settings, because that's the first thing you do when you get in the game. You adjust the settings accordingly. Now, first and foremost, if you're not getting a constant 60 FPS, which I recommend 60 and up, anything below 60, I highly recommend dropping your resolution size. I keep mine at 1280 by 720 simply because I record in 1280 by 720, so it's best to keep the resolution size of the game that you're actually playing with the resolution that you're recording at, just to maintain higher quality and a better looking game, and so the recording won't be cut off on certain portions. Again, I recommend that if you're not getting over 60 frames, to drop your resolution size, bring it down to the minimum HD, which is 1280 by 720. I wouldn't recommend going any lower just because the game starts to look really bad, but if your PC really can't handle it, then you could go down as far as 800 by 600 if you really need to. Alright, moving on, sorry. Moving on, we're going to be doing full screen versus windowed mode. I like to keep my game at full screen simply because of the fact that when you put it in windowed mode, the crosshair isn't properly lined up, and like you can accidentally unclick out of windowed mode sometimes. Like this has happened to me before and I don't know how it happened, but like my mouse, like it just ran over it. Letterbox, I really don't know what this really does. I've really never known what letterboxing does, but I know I keep VSync disabled just because I want my FPS to go high. I want it to go up. I don't want to limit it at 60 FPS, and I basically keep my brightness. That's personal preference. It goes up and down whether I want a dark mood or I want a light mood. It depends on how I'm feeling sometimes. And for texture, world detail, and character detail, and particle detail also, I usually keep that medium just for YouTube's sake, but if it wasn't for YouTube, I'd put it on low just because I want to play the game and I want to maximize the amount of FPS that I get. As long as it's over 100 for me personally, then it's good, but just for YouTube's sake and to make the game look kind of pretty, I keep it at medium. Next, the advanced settings. All of this shit, just basically disable it. I'm gonna just keep it right there. Just basically disable all of this shit besides static diesels. I don't know why I kept that on, but basically disable dynamic shadows, fog, motion blur, post-process, screen door fade, especially DirectX 11, bloom, lens flare, all of that stuff, disable it. And reason being is it really takes a heavy toll on your CPU and GPU especially. And plus, whenever you add these advanced details into the game, yes, it makes the game look better, but have you noticed that when you put on bloom, lens flare, and all of this other things, ambient and depth of field, motion blur, that when you aim down sight it becomes blurry around you, and then like when you're moving too fast, games start to get blurry, depth of field, the colors change, and essentially it really is too much. It's just eye candy. But when you're shooting and when you're working with these visuals, they tend to distract your eyes, and so when you have some of these enabled, when you're shooting somebody, you can see the bullets flying and you can see the light reflecting off the gun and all of that crap. It essentially it makes your aim worse than what it is. So that's why I recommend disabling all of this stuff, because it's really just crap basically, just to make the game look pretty. And if that's what you want to do, be my guest. It's personally what you want to do, but for me, I want to maximize the amount of FPS that I get, so I can basically turn everything off. Next, we're going to be doing audio. Now, I don't know if you guys notice about audio, but if you guys have a voice pack and stuff like that, I really recommend removing a voice pack. If you're going to be playing competitive especially, I got a tip from a friend. If you're doing competitive and you have a voice pack and you're throwing a grenade and you're reloading your weapon, they'll essentially hear you. I have the C-Nano's voice pack enabled, and my enemies could hear me throw a grenade and all of that stuff. Alright, moving on to crosshair. This really is just personal preference. If you guys want to copy my settings, I keep it at this. Tick marks 4. I like this custom crosshair. I don't like to add this or like make it any lower, just because like I've always been used to playing Call of Duty and stuff like that. So having 4 crosshairs is essentially what I need. The length doesn't have to be too long, too short. I keep it at this. Crosshair rotation, I don't really turn it. I keep it at this angle because this is what I'm used to. And the opacity, you can bring it all the way down and you can bring it all the way up. But essentially, this is what I keep it at. And I also keep my smart reticle opacity just because I like to see the circle around it, but sometimes I like to remove it. I keep it at a 1 just to kind of see it and keep it faded. And my static crosshair, I keep this enabled because I don't like my crosshair to move, but if you want to learn the weapon recoil, then I highly suggest that you disable it just to learn your weapon. Moving on to the controls. We're going to be talking about sensitivity and tight aim and ADS and sprint toggle and mouse and all of that. HRV toggle. Basically, I keep mine enabled, but I've been told, and I've actually done it, I've disabled all of these, and the only reason why I keep enabled is just because in Call of Duty and stuff like that, if I disable it in this game, then it will feel weird for me to play other games that have it enabled by default. So essentially what all of these do is it's like a toggle, as it says. Whenever you have HRV, you know how like when you bring up HRV, you stay in HRV. Well, if you press V, which is the keybind that I have HRV set to, the moment that you unpress V, HRV is going to remove itself. The same goes for crouch and ADS and tight aim and all of these things. Mouse sensitivity, it really is personal preference. If you want to go low, if you want to go high, that's up to you. A lot of people recommend going low. I keep mine at around 35 and a 45. Mouse sensitivity, I keep it lower than my tight aim, and I always have a 10-point difference in between them. I don't know why, but this basically seems to help me. If you guys want to apply that to your game, if you want to change it like that, then be my guest. But look acceleration, any form of smooth mouse movement is not the way to go. It really it processes the mouse movement, and it makes it a lot more smoother, and it makes it a lot more slower essentially. So I highly recommend that you remove look acceleration. Moving on, let's move on to keybinds. Personal preference, as I said before, if you have a mouse with buttons on the side, then I would keybind HRV and a couple of other things like tactical to the side of that. But besides that, it's all personal preference, as I said before. Well, anyway guys, this has been the first episode of Blacklight Retribution. Step your game up. It's been your boy MFX Prodigy, and I'm out. Peace.